As a result, we find Islam gives rights to women, rights which we happily take for granted. Now that was the background information, because I wanted to show you where the thinking is coming from. It is not from man in the Islamic perspective. In the Western concept, it's something which has evolved with time. And anything which is man-made cannot be perfect. Now, this is the introduction that I had someone prepared for me. When the Afghani women were wearing burqas and all this was shown on the TV and the Taliban was trounced in the media, how many took off the abayas or burqas after they were liberated? She was a Muslim woman. I do not consider myself to be oppressed by my religion or by those who practice it. This is the person who prepared this statement. And my wife would say the same thing. Islam granted women positive rights before any other religion or philosophy. And if you want to check that, downstairs when you come in the foyer, there's a stand with some pamphlets on it, and one of them is the last sermon by Prophet Muhammad, or peace and blessing be upon him, and that is really a charter for human rights. Okay, so if you move on. Then we come to the right and duty to education, the right to own their own property, the right to work to earn money, equality of reward for equal deeds, the right to express their opinion and to be heard, the right to provisions from her husband for all her needs and more. The right to negotiate marriage terms of her choice, the right to obtain divorce from her husband, even on the ground that she simply cannot tolerate him. But no, divorce is the most hated thing in the sight of God, in the sight of Allah. The right to keep her own money, she's not responsible to maintain any relations. The right to sexual satisfaction from her husband, custody of their children after divorce until the children reach the age where they can make the decision for themselves, to refuse any marriage proposal that doesn't please them, and more. Now the topic I'm just going to look at briefly, just to give you a feel for it and perhaps generate some discussion. The rights of religion, personal rights, rights of honour, rights of property, rights relating to marriage, forced marriages, rights of the Quran I will go over very quickly, and mutilations. Okay? Women and men are created from the same soul. I mentioned the ayah in the Quran already. Okay? Muslim men and women are allies of one another with the same religious responsibilities and promise of reward. They're not in opposition. And in many passages in the Quran, this mentions for believing men and believing women, for women who fast and men who fast, and so on. It was said at one stage that it's only the men that are mentioned in the Quran. And if there were 500 women in this room and one man, the collective noun for that group would be masculine. So when the Quran is addressing people, and it's a masculine noun, unless it prohibits women, it applies to both genders, both sexes. That's the understanding of the Arabic noun, as I understand it. Okay? So it's clearly stated in the Quran, but then this ayah came where it listed all sorts of believing men, believing women, practicing women, fasting men, fasting women, and so on and so on and so on. And people then said, now this applies to women. Okay? But it wasn't true. Understanding the Arabic, you would understand. Move on. Muslim women are legal persons. This had not been the case in Europe until very recently. Remember I mentioned legal rights? When could they own property in their own name? Why is it that they had to change their name when they got married? Because their property went to their husbands. They could not dispose of it in the same way that their husband would. Their lives are protected. They're not allowed to kill a baby because she's a girl, and compensation has to be paid if anyone injures or kills a woman as for a man. Nowadays, you might think that there's no killing of women. But is that true after they brought in the 421 system in China? 2 sets of grandparents, 1 set of parents, 1 child. The child is male or female. If it's female, who's going to look after the parents when she marries out of the family? If it's male, who's going to look after his wife's parents when his wife marries into his family? And this is the situation that you find in China today. You've got forced sterilisation in India. And you have a lot of children being targeted and killed in Palestine. That's women. Muslim women, women's honour is to be respected. Punishment for slander is severe. If someone brings a false accusation of chastity against a woman, and it's wrong, they're flogged, 80 stripes or whatever, and their testimony is not accepted. They're effectively branded alive, and they're no use as a witness. Mothers are respected and honoured, so much so that when someone came to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and asked him, who should I serve first in this world? He said, your mother. He said, and then your mother. He said, and then your mother. And then your father. So the father has respect and honour, but the mother has more respect than him. There's a bond between the mother and the child. The right to marry someone of the same social class if they want to. Okay? In other words, they can choose. The right to have servants if they're used to this. In Islam, the wife doesn't have to do the washing up, for instance, for the housework. Okay? It's not an obligation. If she's not used to doing it and she had a servant in her own house, and she married a particular standard, they can have a servant who can do it for her. Not her obligation to do it. Women can own and dispose of their own property and earn money. And in that money that they earn, it is theirs. The husband has no share in it, and it may not be used for the normal standard of living. It's up to the wife to choose what she does with it, with no pressure from the husband or any external source. It is her choice. They inherit an automatic share of the estates of relatives when they die, and this varies according to the type of relationship. Husband gives them a present to seal the marriage contract. Women help to find a husband but can say no until the right one comes along. No agreement is necessary for the marriage to be valid. So in other words, she has the right to refuse. Okay? She has the right to kind treatment, full maintenance and satisfaction of conjugal rights by her husband. She's permitted to use contraception or not by agreement of her husband. Women can initiate divorce either by mutual agreement with her husband or through the courts. She may have to hand back whatever was given her at marriage, okay? But that would be a question of the issue at the moment. Now, as opposed to the normal concept in Islam is to talk of arranged marriages, where people know one another and they know the children, and a suggestion is made and it's taken up, and the couple get married. As opposed to that, we have the idea that there is a forced marriage. Now, a forced marriage is not Islamic. There is nothing in Islam which allows for a forced marriage. At the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, a woman came to him and she said to him, if my father marries me without my consent, can I divorce my husband? And the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, said yes. And she said, that's what my father did. Do you want to be divorced? Can I guess? No. I want to make sure of the situation for all women. This is the tradition that we have. So, the idea of a forced marriage in Islam is wrong. Okay? Now, why would there be a forced marriage? In some cases in the past there have been feuds between families. And one way of stopping the feuds is that one family has a young boy, another family has a young girl, and they decide that they'll marry these two, and that will stop the fighting from that generation.